Hi everyone, we are Group 3 and for our prelim project, we will discuss to you on how to maintain and overhaul these four specific parts, which is the piston overhaul of maintain proportional engine, piston overhaul of diesel engine, taking crankshaft deflection of diesel engine and replacing a leaking mechanical seal of main engine lobe oil pump. And now I will introduce to you my group members. First is Engine Cadet Ababa and Engine Cadet Aligway, who is speaking right now, and Engine Cadet Idon, and Engine Cadet Ihalad, and Engine Cadet Patlingrao. And now, the first topic, which is the piston overhaul of main propulsion engine, will be discussed by Engine Cadet Patlingrao.
Hi, this is Donmer Patlingrao. So I'm going to discuss what is main engine overhauling and what is to carry out and what are specific tools. So first, main engine is the heart of the vessel, as we know, and which provides all the power of the power vessel. So even the propulsion and propeller moving ship, main engine is important. So it is necessary to understand the main engine operation as well as how to operate professionally, increase the efficiency and partly increase the life of main engine and relevant equipments. So to overhaul, recondition, compulsory that the worker shall be understand the main engine and what have to do to complete the job. So the procedure is to overhaul the main engine. Is not much difference between main engine brand. So can be list out the most famous and popular main engine. So the first procedure is to inspect the crankshaft before repair if necessary and from the specific vessel. Second is isolate relevant systems before start the overhaul job, like the removing cylinder head, relevant machine detail and parts, remove bolt and disassembly rocker arm, lift up the cylinder head and the discharge puppet valve backs. So the machine will put it in a safe position on the floor in the engine room. After the repair is will be completed in reassembly. So next procedure is to the cylinder part is mainly the lubrication gun. Remove and check the clearance and the injection hull. So check the sealing of the cylinder assembly to be replaced. So next is piston and connection rod. Remove the piston connection rod, put it in a safe shelf, and cleaning jack and segment gap. Next, piston crown. Piston crown is maybe basically a stuffing box. So the cylinder will be removing the liner and refit measuring and get assembly data. So replace the O-ring and the fresh cooling water compartment. So that is important so that it will install calibration and the test and commissioning of the specific engine. So what is cylinder net? So I would just want to expound what is cylinder liner. So a common way to remove stock liner is to use hydraulic jacks on the bottom and the cylinder liner, and the hydraulic pressure is slightly moved out and stock engine structure. So it may be then lifted by the help of engine room crane and the lifting tool. So that's it. Thank you and have a great day.
Good day everyone, I'm Engine Cadet Ihalad. I'm the continuation of the report. Precaution piston overhaul of main propulsion engine has never been done before. The main design is too complex and inefficient and there is no way to remove it completely. However, for each individual one it is possible to add certain amount of control. At first, you will have to switch the engine to full throttle. Your choice is between the engine, braking or hydraulic. Your choice will affect which way the compressor is located. The compressor will also be the main thing that will affect your vehicle braking performance. When you go into your next sets of tests and your performance is going to be even more critical and potentially risky than before, There are two key things you will need to do for it truly be safe for your vehicle, engine, and the brake. You have to switch to full throttle for the engine. With the engine full throttle, you can be sure that the pressure is being applied over the airframe, and it will be only accelerate when pressure is increases. The engine only stop when pressure is much below zero. The pressure will change from 0 to 99 when the entire turbocharger is engaged. So you have to not done whole system correctly. The brake force reason is stability efficiency cannot be adjusted manually, so they cannot be in full throttle even after a set of hard braking and braking during full throttle. Thus, with the two different engine in idle time and braking during thrust, they are no longer recommended.
Hi everyone, my name is Engine Cadet Aligway, and now I will discuss to you the steps of changing and or overhauling the piston of a diesel engine. So I know we are familiar about the various components of marine diesel engines, including bed plate, crankshaft, crankshaft deflections, pistons, piston rings, manufacture of piston rings, piston ring clearances, and methods of dealing with an overrated piston. Despite of the best efforts, piston do have a specific lifetime, and one day it has to be replaced no matter how much well maintained it is. And now I will tell you the general steps on how to go about changing the huge pistons of the main propulsion plant of the ship, namely a two-stroke marine diesel engine. So the first step of changing the piston is the spare piston always keep properly secured and lots of grease is applied to it to prevent against any kind of corrosion. Hence, whenever it is required to be used as a substitute for the old piston which has to be removed, it is first cleaned up truly to remove all that grease and the possible dust and dirt that have covered it up during its lonely stay at some bulkhead. Next is it is necessary to gauge the liner and the piston to check whether they are compatible with each other. This may seem unnecessary, but to many engineers this worth the check. And the next is check if there's any possible leakage in the cooling water space by using pressure test with water as a test liquid. It is not necessary to attain several times of the normal working pressure, but approximately 1/5 of the pressure above the normal working pressure should be sufficient to perform this test. Next is initially do not insert the piston rings on the piston and lower it in the liner after securing it at the crosshead. The engines is then turned in the ahead direction using the turning gear, and readings of piston clearance and guide clearances are taken at the tip and at the rubbing ring. Next is the above readings are taken at the various angular positions of the crankshaft, namely TDC 30, 150, 180, 210, and 330 degrees, respectively at the four diametrical positions of forward, aft, and the athwart ship directions. So next is these readings are recorded on the table, which helps the engineer to check at a glance about the alignment of the piston versus the cylinder liner bore. And the clearance volume also needs to be correct. And for this, the piston is brought to the TDC position again, and the relative height of the piston with respect to the machined top surface of liner is noted. And the next step is after ascertaining about the correctness of the dimensions and clearance volume, the piston is removed outside and fitted with the correct piston rings and lowered back again into the liner. The other parts are fitted as well in the correct order. And the last step is for the first 100 hours, the new piston is not run on heavy oil but only on clear distillate fuel, and that too on a light load, which helps running in of the bedding of piston rings on the cylinder liner surface. That's all, and the next topic is about taking crankshaft deflection for diesel engine, and it will be discussed by Engine Cadet Ababa.
Hello everyone, I'm Engine Cadet Ababa and I'm here to discuss about the taking crankshaft defection for diesel engine. So why do we need to take crankshaft defection? So it is to make sure that the crank runs and maintain proper balance, because as we know, while the engine runs, due to some friction between the bearing and the crank pin, the bearing wear out and maintain its imbalance across the length of the crankshaft. So what are the tools or materials to be used in taking crankshaft defection for diesel engine? So we will use the defection gauge. So what is defection gauge? Defection gauge is the main tool you will be using to conduct crankshaft defection measurement. So these gauges can be either mechanical or digital. So what are the precaution or the steps to accomplish the proper reading in taking the crankshaft defection? So first is set your dial indicator to 0. Then second is open all crankcase covers. Third is engage turning gear. Then the fourth is switch your turning gear to manual if it is set to auto. So fifth is turn the engine till the crank wave horizontal to point so that it will enable you to place the dial indicator at a proper point. So the sixth is after placing the dial indicator, check to make sure if it is at 0. So next is 7th is turn back to initial point. Then 8th is turn to the bottom, also taking readings. 9th is keep turning till starboard side horizontal. Next is continue turning till top starboard side vertical. Then take final reading. So tanan nga akong gimension, you will just repeat it or record it if it is required.
So I am Engine Cadet Idon, and for the replacing of a leaking mechanical seal of main engine lube oil pump, first is a pump seal normally needs fluid to lubricate the materials around shaft, and if there are no fluids available to lubricate, the seal runs dry, which causes extra friction and heat. The seal will burn or melt and become damaged, which causes fluid leakage due to the pressure. So there are steps for replacing your seal, is to make sure the power to your pump is off, because safety is always the first step. And next is disconnect the pump from the plumbing system by using a PVC saw, and place the pump on a table or a spacious work area. Second is using a wrench and screw the bolts on the pump housing. Detach the pump's motor shaft from the housing. Make sure to keep track of the bolts you unscrew. And third is dismantling the pump impeller is the next step, as the seal is located on the shaft behind the impeller. While holding the shaft in place, rotate the pump's impeller counterclockwise, which until disconnects from the shaft. Part of the old mechanical seal will be attached to the impeller, while the other part will still be attached to the motor shaft. Remove both of these pieces, and now it's time to put on the replacing seal. Slide the new mechanical seal along the shaft of the motor, do not touch the front face of the cell, as it is highly sensitive to the oils on your fingers. Once the new seal is on the shaft, use the wrench once again to screw the impeller back on. After this, reattach the pump housing and motor by tightly screwing in the bolts. Now that your pump is ready to go, the final step is placing the pump back into your plumbing system, and you can do this by reconnecting the pump to the plumbing tubes with industrial strength PVC glue and primer, and wait a full day before starting the pump, as the glue and primer need at least 24 hours to dry off. And that's all for the replacing a leaking mechanical seal of main engine lube oil.